announcement before we get into the episode of the day. If you'd like to sponsor an episode of the podcast, send an email to kimdaydesigns@gmail.com and we can discuss all the details of possibly working together. Hi, and welcome to the Fabric of Success podcast, a show where I have real conversations with real people on real topics in the fashion industry, especially how they've taken an idea and turned it into a thriving business. I am your host, Priscilla of Kim Dave, and today's topic is one that, honestly thinking now, I haven't really shared this a lot online, but I think it's important. I think it's very important that we share this aspect of being business owners because it's a real thing that actually happens. So the topic of today is failure is a teacher, because we are all going to experience failure at one point or the other. So I'm going to be sharing some business and product ideas that I've actually dipped my toes into, and these ideas flopped. They failed big time. But from those experiences, I actually learned some things I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. So the point is not to shame myself or anything. No, it's to actually talk through what worked and what didn't. So if you're someone who wants to follow a similar path, you really have some kind of guidance or reference points that you could take into consideration going into the future. Don't forget to subscribe so you are aware when a new episode of the podcast drops. Leave a comment as well so we can have a juicy conversation, and let's get straight into the conversation. First business idea that comes to mind is one that I had. This was before COVID, and it was a time when subscription boxes were a thing. So I thought it would be cool. It didn't turn out that way. I thought it'd be cool to do like a wellness box that each box had a name, it had a theme, and the items inside the box went with that idea. I was so excited about this. I remember like sourcing products from black-owned brands, putting everything together, doing like a nice product shoot. But it felt so bad. I don't even think I sold any of those boxes, maybe like one of the lots that I had curated, and it did just work at all. So there were a few things from that venture that I realized, okay, I shouldn't have done that, or I should have done this. And I'm going to be sharing that with you guys. So the first thing I think of off the bat was I remember struggling with the pricing of the product because the individual items I had placed in the box were on the higher side. They were highly priced. So it ended up making the price of the box or the wellness kit really expensive. Like, why would I ask someone to pay that? I don't remember how much it was, but I just remember it was on the pricey side. And maybe that didn't sit well with my audience, with my customer, which I didn't even know. I didn't even know who I was selling the item to. That was the second mistake. The price was not it, and I didn't know who I was selling to. So the next thing that I noticed that was an issue was the shipping, because the box ended up being quite big. And the moment you have a big box or a box that is heavy, it means you're going to pay more for shipping. Are you going to ask the customer to pay, or are you going to include it in the product price? So that in itself did not just sit really well with the whole like venture and the whole experience. Shipping was a headache. Shipping was a hassle because the box was big, which brings me to the next point. The box was ugly. It was not, let's just call it for what it is. The packaging was not nice at all. It was not even branded in any way because I was trying to keep the costs down. It was like a white cardboard box. It wasn't even like corrugated or structured. It was quite flimsy, quite floppy, which meant that even after the person had unboxed this item, they could not repurpose or reuse that box. So there were a few things that just went wrong with that idea. So if I were to do this again, I definitely would try and source products from various suppliers, because I didn't even do a lot of research to find another option of the same product. I just found one and went ahead with our supplier. So I would definitely research more options for where I could get the same product or something similar for a price that is still good and will give me like a quality product. So that is one thing I would definitely do differently. Number two is I would try and take my time designing the packaging a lot more, especially if I want it to be like something that the customer would have an experience unboxing. The box is part of the experience. So I'll take my time designing the box, just ensuring that the whole experience of receiving and open and using the packaging is a lot better. And then pricing, oh my gosh, pricing. I think that was the first of many errors and mistakes with that particular wellness kit. Is the price was not it. I didn't source products that were affordable, which ended up affecting the prices, which ended up affecting the success of the business. Second idea that I want to cover is one that I don't say it flopped. I say it was just very challenging to continue to run. So there's a point I actually was selling sewing tools, to be specific, the pattern master, because I got a lot of comments from people asking me, where did you get your pattern master? Share links, share links, share links. So I was like, okay, why don't I source the pattern master and put it on my website for people to actually buy, and I ship it to them? I mean, it sounds like a brilliant idea because the need is there. People asked for it. I knew a supplier. I knew that if I got quality tools, there'll be somebody to buy the tools. So why did it work? The first issue I had was because it's a material that would break easily in transit. Shipping and packaging the pattern master was tough. It's like a very thin, like a thin ruler. You see me, if you've watched my tutorials on YouTube, you'd have seen me use that tool. It's kind of like a French curve, but it has a straight side and then a curved side. A very useful tool that I used every single time I make sewing patterns. So it makes sense that my community wanted to have it for themselves. But it's from plastic, a material that if the courier does not handle properly, it could break in transit. So I would add tons and tons of bubble wrap. I would add cardboard to ensure that it wouldn't break. But that just meant that more and more cost was being added to the cost of packaging that item. So that was issue number one that I think was a big challenge. Number two was I didn't the space to store the stock. When you are buying from a supplier and you're buying like a considerable amount, you need to have the space to store the item so they don't degrade, so they don't break, so nothing happens to it until you sell all of your inventory. I did not have the space for that. This was the point where I still lived in a studio apartment with my then boyfriend, now husband. I didn't just have the space for that. So that was challenge number two. The final point I think that became an issue was the pattern master. There are different brands that make the same tool, different qualities and different grades. I think I got mine from Moreplan. They are very well known store that stocks like sewing tools, craft supplies, mannequins, but their items are really good quality, which also reflects in the price. And I got the pattern master that I decided to resell from Moreplan, which meant that if I was going to sell and make a profit, I had to add a margin on top, which ended up making the pattern master a lot more expensive for the customer, the consumer to get. So I definitely should have taken my time researching out other suppliers that could have provided the same tool for me at a price that was still, it worked for me as a business and it worked for the customer. So it was a win-win for all the parties involved. Venture number three, thinking about this one just gives me a headache because this is one that it really, like, if you master this product idea or this service idea, it's one that could possibly guarantee you steady stream of income. And cash flow is important as a business. You want to have money continuously coming into the business, so as the money is going out, there's an influx to keep things balanced, which is what cash flow is in a nutshell. So the third venture that I dabbled in for a while, actually for I think for a couple of months or years, was doing one-on-one sewing classes. This is when someone would come into the space and I'll teach them how to make a skirt or a dress, or we did a few different type of garments. Initially, it was something that was cool and exciting because then people could come in, I'll show them how to sometimes make the pattern, cut the fabric, or sew it together. So it was like a nice hands-on experience that I actually would get like sign-ups like at least once every month. So it was like a good, steady, flowing stream of income. But the problem with that is when you are the one in charge of providing a service, you and you alone, you run into that one man risk of if you become unwell, if for some reason you can't be present to provide that service or that product, that thing cannot happen. So that was the first issue that I was the one teaching all the classes. Even if I was tired or sick, I still had to show up because people had booked those classes and I had to be there for it. So that one man challenge, which is something that you would face if you're someone who is a solopreneur, basically is you are the brand is you. You would face that challenge a lot if you're the one who handles everything. If something happens to you, your business is directly affected. So that was the first issue that I faced, and for a while I just like went through it, showed up for all those classes, but it just became really hectic at a point because I think COVID happened shortly after, and then there was now the safety issue, the health issue. So that became like a challenge pretty quickly because I wasn't sure if I could keep showing up for those classes all the time. Number two was there was a safety issue. So these are people that would find the class online, book it, and then show up for the sessions. Like I just prayed that all the people that showed up were people who were actually they were like decent people, they were decent human beings, and they weren't coming to do anything ill-willed. I have faith in humanity, I guess. So I had a lot of those classes. I think I had definitely over 15 classes. I had over 15 classes in the span of period that I did those one-on-one classes, and they were very exciting. It was nice to actually like, see someone learn a new skill, see them overcome a challenge, see them use a machine for the first time. That was actually quite cool, but the safety issue was always at the back of my mind. I don't know if it's because I'm Nigerian, but I'm just always very safety conscious when I invite people into my space. It's just a thing for me. The final point in terms of sewing classes and why it can be a venture that could be quite challenging is it takes up a lot of your time. As a business owner, as a creative, your time is your most valuable asset. So say someone books a class for 2 hours. It's not just the 2 hours that you're going to be busy, right? There's going to be the hour before where you have to get all the materials, all the tools ready. If you're someone who makes content, you would start filming your BTS scene. And then if you want to give the person refreshment, you have to prepare that beforehand. Maybe you want to give them a tea or a coffee, you have to get all the utensils ready. So when they come, they actually feel like, oh, this person is ready to go and they've welcomed them really warmly. So it's not just the 2 hours you're doing that class, it's the maybe an hour before or an hour to 2 hours later if it's someone who is slow. And I had that a lot. There were people who were maybe they were not quick or they were new to sewing, so the class overran by an hour to 2 hours. So that was time that was taken from my personal time. And God bless my husband who had to deal with that a lot. He's like, I thought you said this class was 2 hours. Why is this person still here? Or why are you still on that class? So it takes up a lot of your personal time. But if that is your entire thing, you've structured your time really well, you've built and you have a space dedicated for that you can go in, do your class, and then come out of. Whereas I was doing this from my studio apartment, so my home was my workspace, was my everything. I really could not disconnect. If you're able to make that separation, all well and good. If you're able to manage your time really, really strictly, all well and good, but it will consume a lot of your time like it did mine. And I really struggled with that. And I'm someone who I like to see people finish things. So even if it was going overrun, even if it was an hour to 2 hours extra, I would actually accommodate every single time. But I could only accommodate for so long. So yeah, that was a bit of a challenge, and I don't know if I ever do sewing classes again, if I'm being really honest. Especially if you have the classes running, you have a few good reviews to promote your class, you have pictures from customers, from students, because that kind of sells the class. When you have reviews, you have student work to show. Anyone who wants to do the class can easily see what they've done in the past and if it was good. The class kind of sells itself. So it's an amazing idea, but there are just a few things that you have to keep in mind if you're someone who wants to venture into this possible product, business, or service ideas. I hope you enjoyed this one because sharing failures, setbacks, mistakes is something we don't see a lot on social media. We often get to see the success, the product that was sold out, the business trips, the booming orders. Like that's what we typically will see when we go to like a founder's page. But behind all of that is a lot of mistakes because a business is essentially taking calculated risks on a daily. Like if you're not ready to do that, you will struggle because you have to be willing to try something new sometimes. You have to be willing to invest a certain amount of money. You have to be willing to do some things that would pay off if you stay committed to it. So mistakes and failures come with the whole experience, but they do not define you. If anything, when you encounter them, take that experience, take the lesson. So in the future, if you do something else, if you come up with another idea, you have this experience that you cannot implement in the future to know maybe I need to spend more time on researching my packaging. Maybe I need to spend more time on sourcing other options for this product rather than just going with the very first one that I see. You will not know that until you go through all these failed business ideas. So don't let it define you. Don't let it beat you down. Don't let it make you feel any type of way negatively. Deal with the emotions, go through it, but then dust yourself back up and think, okay, this is something that has happened. This is what I've learned from it. What did we learn? Take that experience and keep moving and keep running. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, let me know your thoughts as well. Leave any further questions you have down below so we have like a conversation. Have you done any business that failed? Have you had a product idea that failed? Why did it fail? Leave a comment as well so somebody else who might possibly follow that path would have that wisdom, that wealth of knowledge that they could draw from that would possibly save them money in the future if they were to follow that business path. It is worth noting that two people can do the same business, the same idea, but the execution will be different based on their experiences, based on how much money they have at their disposal, based on a lot of factors outside of their control. So just because it failed for one person does not mean it will fail for you as well. I just wanted to say that before we wrap up today's episode. But I hope you enjoyed and you learned something from this. Until my next one, have a good morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are. Bye. My book recommendation of the week is one by Maria, the founder of Rodial Beauty, a well-known beauty brand. And the book is called How to Be an Overnight Success. I got this book back in 2017, and I really like how the author breaks down that the fact that a business appears successful, that does not happen overnight. It takes a lot of years of unseen work before you actually start to see the results, the success, which is what I particularly enjoyed in this book. So I recommend that one. Read it, loved it, and I'm going to link it down below for anyone who wants to grab a copy for themselves. If today's episode helped you, share it with someone building your own fabric of success.